Hello, this is Chris Kinman coming to you again from the unceded territory of the Syilx people, also known as the Okanagan people. I'm in the town of Kelowna, British Columbia. I've been talking with you recently about the influence of Gilles Deleuze upon my life and work, and trying to give an understanding, put over an understanding of how his influence can affect therapeutic practice or communal practices. Today I want to continue with this discussion, but not about Deleuze specifically, but rather about Jacques Derrida. Jacques Derrida is another writer whom I love. And I'm speaking to you recently about authors who I love and who have had a dramatic impact upon my way of life and work. And Jacques Derrida is one of those. If you follow Jacques Derrida through time, it can be very difficult because his early writing is very hard to understand, and it's hard to understand because he's speaking the language and challenging the language of structuralism, challenging the linguists, Césaire and Levi Strauss, and challenging also the philosophy of Rousseau, political philosopher. And one of the things he was doing in this was challenging the idea of structuralism, which in a nutshell is the idea that there is an essence and a center to everything, and that there are boundaries around that essence and center that protect us or protect that center. You could see this in so many parts of life. So often we imagine ourselves to have an essence inside us, a single essence, a center, and then we have to protect ourselves. We have to put boundaries in place in order to protect that essential center. Derrida's challenge to the concept of the center, the essence of things, has had a great influence upon our world today. You can see it involved in much of the discourse of social justice. You can see it as very supportive of much of the agenda of feminism, for instance. Those ideas that challenge the centrality of the masculine, that challenge the centrality of the European view of the world, challenge the centrality of the white person. Derrida has been helpful with those challenges and has been influential on those challenges as well. Derrida challenged this notion, suggesting that there is no center, there is no core, there is no essence. Rather, there is a multitude of possibilities that are evolved within any entity, including ourselves. So we are a multitude of possibilities, a multitude of lines. Derrida was interested in what he called the trace, looking for the trace. It's a very similar idea from what Deleuze had, where Deleuze was looking for lines of flight. So you have this center, you have this core, and it leaks. And it sends out lines of flight, or it sends out traces. And those traces are what can be really interesting to follow. Um, this is done well in the therapeutic realm with narrative therapy. With narrative therapy, they look at what they call the dominant story. That would be that sense of essence and boundary. And there's the dominant story, but they look for exceptions to that dominant story. Exceptions within life that counter that dominant story. And I believe that's a beautiful idea. That we don't have to be locked in to the dominance of an idea. That if we look at life, we will see lines of flight. That's my favorite term for it, lines of flight. We will see traces that remove ourselves from that dominant center, that dominant story. I'll give you an example of that with a recent conversation I had with somebody. This person was feeling quite sad because he was feeling that he was not being given the respect that he felt he should have in his workplace and in his life in general. So we looked at the value of respect, and we looked at where it came from. And it came from his father, who demanded respect, that if he didn't get it, would punish people, punish his children. But then we talked more, and there was another lineage, another line of flight, another trace. And that trace wasn't respect, it was kindness. So leaking out of that dominant story that was holding him in were stories of kindness that his mother gave. Kindness that he now holds is important. And he believes that is really important to who he is. So we explored kindness and its relationship to this young man and to his history. And it became the counter story to the story of respect. It became a line of flight away from the dominance of that idea of respect. And this young man seemed to really appreciate that. And we were able to celebrate kindness. A good thing to do. I love Derrida's work for so many reasons. There's another story I want to tell you about Derrida. He wrote a piece where he talks about standing naked in front of his cat and feeling shame. And from this, he talked about how in our society all the literature of philosophy, when it talks about animals, talks about them as us looking upon them, us observing them, us calculating them. And he suggests that almost never do we have the story of the animal watching us, calculating us, observing us. I suggest that it's not just the animal, but in the therapeutic realm, it's the way we often see the people we work with, even in the terminology we give to them, a patient or client. We never say our friend, for instance. They're the patient, their client, they're not a friend. And we see ourselves as watching them, as evaluating them, as giving them a diagnosis from our position. But what would happen if we began to see people as also seeing us, is that not the kind of world that we need? A world that creates empathy and understanding? A world where the other is seeing us as well. That other can be the animal. The cat could be a wild animal that's watching us. To spend time thinking, but it could also be the people, it could be children, it could be people that are often considered less than us in some way. That they are observing us, they are calculating us. I think that's a very interesting concept that is worth exploring. And I'm very grateful to Derrida for giving us this idea. There's so much more that Derrida has given. Another one is the concept of the gift. And he compares the gift to the concept of law and justice. He makes a statement in one of his books, the book on Marx. He makes it clear that there is something more beautiful and more powerful, more disturbing, and more life-changing in the concept of the gift that far exceeds the concept of law and the concept of justice. We don't talk about the gift in our work. There is no talk in the training that happens for counselors and therapists about the concept of the gift. There is no talk in education about the concept of the gift. There is, but they make it into something other than the gift. They talk about giftedness as something that's just given to some people, to the rare cream of the crop that are gifted, rather than everybody as conduits for gifts. We need to do this. We need the concept of the gift and how Jacques Derrida gave it to us and how others have given it to us as something that counteracts the negativity and the essentialism of looking for pathology. I believe the gift is an important idea that challenges us on that front. And I invite all of you to spend time reading about it and thinking about it and considering the ramifications of the gift in our life and work. I could tell you so much more about Jacques Derrida, but I'm going to stop here. And I want to thank you for your time.